This is a true crime in real time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Today we find ourselves tangled in the labyrinthine twists of the Richard Allen trial. No smoke and mirrors, no speculations, just cold, hard facts that could have you questioning everything you think you know. I'm Tony Brueski, and we've got testimonies you wouldn't believe, confessions that may or may not have happened, and a jury that's desperately trying to piece together a story that feels more like a suspense novel than reality. It all begins with an alleged confession, the kind that should leave no room for ambiguity, except this one does. Richard Allen, a man whose name has become synonymous with suspicion, reportedly admitted to killing Abby Williams and Libby German. It's a confession that on its surface sounds irrefutable, but when you dig deeper, questions begin to pile up like autumn leaves in a breeze. Dr. Walla, the prison psychologist, took the stand to deliver these stunning revelations. She recounted how Allen described ordering the girls down the hill, his intentions allegedly sexual in nature, and how a sudden moment of fear drove him to end their lives. He saw a white van, panicked, and acted on that panic. The courtroom went silent as she spoke, each word hanging heavy in the air, thick with the weight of what it all implied. But just as swiftly, the defense came in to rain skepticism on this supposed breakthrough. Dr. Walla's credibility, they argued, is as questionable as the methods used to extract that confession. You see, Walla has more than a passing interest in true crime. In fact, she's something of an enthusiast, having discussed the Delphi case online and even visited the infamous Monon High Bridge herself. The defense claimed that this interest could have tainted her professional integrity, making her more eager to connect dots that perhaps shouldn't be connected. If Allen was unstable, could she have pushed him, even unintentionally, into telling a story that she, and perhaps the world, wanted to hear? Now, let's pause here. Imagine for a moment being in Richard Allen's shoes. Diagnosed with major depressive disorder, transferred to Westville Correctional Facility, and plunged into a psychological maelstrom. From the moment he arrived, Allen's mental health became a focal point, deteriorating to such an extent that he was placed under constant surveillance. A grim setup for a man presumed innocent until proven guilty. He was prescribed medication involuntarily at times and kept in solitary confinement, a practice that has been hotly debated for its impact on the human mind. The defense argues that these conditions led to a psychotic break, not a moment of clarity. And then there's the evidence, or the lack thereof. Allen's black 2016 Ford Focus SE took center stage next. Surveillance footage captured a similar-looking vehicle near the crime scene, but is a blurry shadow enough to seal a man's fate. The prosecution brought in Steve Mullen, who testified about a DMV search. Out of all the black Ford Focus vehicles registered in Carroll County during 2016-2017, there was only one, just one, Richard Allen's. But the defense quickly fired back, pointing out that hundreds of cars of a similar make and model roamed the area. The footage, they argued, lacked details like license plates or distinguishing features, making it inconclusive at best. Yet the story doesn't end there. There's still the chilling matter of Allen's time behind bars. Dr. Walla and her team worked under extraordinary pressure, fielding reports of Allen's mental decline. His behavior reportedly grew erratic. He exhibited signs of self-harm and expressed paranoid thoughts, complaining about being treated as guilty before a trial had even begun. His eyes, once normal, reportedly became bulging due to the psychological stress, though whether that was due to depression or another underlying issue, we may never fully know. In a courtroom moment that seemed plucked from a legal thriller, Dr. Walla admitted to shredding her original session notes, claiming it was standard protocol once data was entered digitally. But the defense wasn't buying it. They presented guidelines suggesting that notes should be preserved in cases where litigation was likely. So why, they pressed, would she destroy something so vital? Cue Brad Weber, the man in the blue long-sleeve shirt and suspenders, who could either confirm or shatter Allen's confession. He drove the infamous white van that Allen allegedly saw the day of the murders. Weber testified that he had driven his van that afternoon, but the defense aimed to cast doubt, arguing he had gone to an ATM and even suggesting he had lied to law enforcement. Weber's loud denial echoed through the courtroom, a moment that split spectators into two camps: those who felt a slam-dunk case was unfolding, and those who still doubted. And the jury, bless them, are doing their best to stay impartial, yet their questions reveal a deeper concern. They asked if Allen would have understood prison rules well enough to manipulate outcomes, if the evidence of his mental deterioration could have been exaggerated, and if this alleged psychosis could reappear. Yet the biggest cliffhanger of all remains: 2 hours of yet unheard audio recordings. What secrets do they hold? Will they illuminate the truth or muddy the waters even further? Imagine being on that jury, bombarded with conflicting information, presented with allegations, defenses, and counter-defenses, and then having to decide what it all means. What does justice look like here? Are we watching a man being methodically exposed for his crimes, or could this be the disintegration of an innocent man buried under a mountain of flawed evidence and speculative psychology? Let's pause for a moment to reflect. The testimony we've heard thus far paints a picture not just of Richard Allen as a man accused, but as a human being placed under conditions designed to break him. Solitary confinement, erratic medication adjustments, and the psychological trauma that comes with being labeled a baby killer in prison. It's not for the faint-hearted. And yet he must remain resolute, pleading not guilty and facing a jury that knows more about him than most accused men ever have to endure. What gnaws at me is this: how do we evaluate a confession that was made under such duress? Was it the byproduct of guilt finally catching up? Or was it the desperate ramblings of a man pushed to the brink? We've seen this play out before in other high-profile cases. People have confessed to crimes they didn't commit, only to be exonerated years later. If Allen's confession was real, why would he plead not guilty? And if he's innocent, could the weight of the accusations paired with extreme mental stress have conjured a false narrative? Another troubling facet is Dr. Walla's conduct. True crime podcasts and Reddit forums are fun to follow when you're a casual spectator. But when you're a psychologist directly treating the accused, any appearance of bias, intentional or not, undermines the credibility of the case. Her admission that she shared case details with Allen to give him hope sounds well-meaning, but crosses an ethical boundary. Moreover, the shredded notes add a layer of murkiness to an already convoluted story. Sure, it's protocol, but should protocol supersede the pursuit of transparency, especially when a man's life hangs in the balance? Now, consider Brad Weber's testimony about the white van. One witness, one vehicle, one critical detail that could either corroborate Allen's confession or further confuse the narrative. Weber's loud, emphatic denial when challenged about his whereabouts should not be dismissed lightly. But was it genuine? Or was it a man caught off guard, forced to defend himself? This case is a puzzle with pieces that don't seem to fit neatly, and the prosecution and defense are not just presenting evidence. They're orchestrating a psychological chess match, each trying to control the narrative. The jury, meanwhile, serves as the grand arbiter of truth, but they, too, are only human. They see Allen's deteriorated state, hear the emotionally charged testimonies, and must sort through the biases and half-truths that come with every trial. It's a Herculean task, and one that will ultimately decide whether justice is served or missed entirely. So as we stand here, metaphorically gripping the courtroom rails, the bigger question looms. How much of our belief in this case is rooted in concrete evidence, and how much is driven by gut feeling and speculation? For now, these questions lay in the hands of the jury. I'm Tony Brueski, and if you want to stay up to date on this case and others we cover, be sure to subscribe.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface,
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
where hidden killers roam unnoticed in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.